it's Jasper. Last week I finished the first draft of my novel. This week I've been setting goals for 2018, and today is the first day of my Christmas vacation. So today I want to talk about setting goals for 2018. Now, it may not come as a surprise to you, as I've talked about this a lot in my videos before, but I look forward to, always look forward to, the days where I get to schedule out, make plans, and forecast for whether it's the months or the year ahead. Now, what I've been doing the last few days is forecasting for my entire year, which means that the first 2 months of the year are a little bit more solid, and I've set dates throughout the year for kind of like forecasting. As you can see, when I flip through my calendar, my January, I've got quite a bit in here. But as we get into my February even, there's just some really kind of smaller goals. The days aren't completely filled up, and it's the same as you kind of go through. Some months don't have anything, some just have like one thing, two things. But the benefit for me of printing off all 12 months, laying them out on the table, because this is what I did. If you've been following my Instagram, you probably saw this. Laid them all out on the table and kind of forecasted, okay, what might my year look like? So you might be wondering, how do you forecast for the year ahead? For me, what this looked like was I made up my calendar. I'm not sure why, but I love making up my calendar on Word document. It's a little time consuming, but there's something kind of interesting about going through day by day for the whole year and kind of thinking about how much time I really have in a year. So after I had made my calendar for the year, I spent some time researching, just general Googling around, what is it that I need to do? What is it that goes into writing a book and publishing a book and marketing a book? What are the things that I maybe need to start thinking about? Now, what I mean is I started looking at what are the sort of first step things I need to do. So that way I could set in my calendar, you know, for instance, in February, start saying, research what are the pros and cons of self-publishing. Research what are the pros and cons of going with a publisher. Research what does it look like to get an agent, that kind of thing. So I can give myself reminders to start looking into this process, because in the span of a few days, you can't research everything there is to know about, you know, publishing and editing and what that will all entail. But what you can do is say, what are the things that will be required of me to do, and then set reminders in your calendar to start researching into those things. So the first bit of my work was researching what it is I would need to do, and then combining that list with the things that I want to do and I hope to do. A few of those goals specifically were things to do with my social media platforms. I have a Twitter and a LinkedIn account that I created and then sort of just left because I was like, I don't know if I have enough time for these things. I don't understand these things, but I know that they're things that I should be using. We have so many tools that are at our disposal with the World Wide Web, and we need to be using them. And so I've set certain goals in the new year for my Twitter and my LinkedIn, which have just been sort of created and then abandoned. I've also set tentative deadlines for my second and my third draft. That way I can sort of have a visual in my head. My second draft, I've set a date in April that I'm sort of hoping I could kind of get to earlier than that, but it's gonna have to sort of depend on how my second draft goes. I've never done the second draft of a novel. I've done many and many second drafts for conference papers, huge, you know, essays and that kind of thing. I've done second and third drafts. I've done, you know, that editing process, but I've never done it for a novel. And my novel right now is quite lengthy. It's a good length for a fantasy novel, but it's a fairly long little beast. I also set a solid day-by-day plan for January. For me, that was really important because I want to know that when I come back from Christmas vacation, I've got a day-by-day plan to get me to transition from taking a vacation, not working at all, to getting right back into working. The other things that I put reminders in my calendar for were looking into conferences. I've gone to a few academic conferences. They're so much fun. There's such an opportunity there. And there are so many different kinds of get-togethers and events that happen in my field of research and writing that I would love to be involved in. But often what happens is I kind of forget, and then all of a sudden the conference is happening and I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have planned ahead to go to that conference or to try to speak at that conference. So I've put reminders in my calendar to look into conferences. And the last thing I put in, which is something I got from Jen Morassi, is setting quarterly goals. For someone like me who loves setting goals, who likes keeping their schedule organized, I love the idea of quarterly goals, and I was like, how come I haven't been doing that? I just kind of have been randomly sitting down, okay, you need to set your goals. But the idea that, you know, after I've got them at the end of every 3 months to kind of look at the goals that I had set for those 3 months and then to forecast goals for the next 3 months. I love that idea. So thank you, Jen Morassi. Now the next and last thing I want to talk about is vacation time. I decided to be intentional in my vacation time, that I would set an end date and a start date for my work, because when you work hard, I think it's important to allow yourself a time to rest, because you can only push yourself so hard for so long, and I think rest is important. I also think that you need to spend time with friends and family, and when I get working, I get busy and I don't see the people that I would like to see. I stay home and I just work all day and see no one. So vacation is essential for seeing the people you love and doing other things that you love. When I'm working really hard, my reading, I try to keep a good reading schedule, but at the same time, I don't get to just binge on books because I've got a certain amount of work to do in the day. So vacation is nice because I can just sit around and read Harry Potter all day. I have been rereading Harry Potter and I am loving it. And the other reason I think that taking time off is important is that when you've pushed yourself to work to a certain big kind of deadline goal, and for me that was getting my first draft done, I think that it's important to mark that time with, one, some celebrating, you just did something really big, that was great, but also allowing yourself to have some space from your work is important. To me, that I had my first draft done and then I would take a Christmas break was very exciting because I could finish my first draft, walk away from it, let it simmer, and over the break, what I plan on doing is just keeping a journal open and jotting any ideas that come out. And I'm really excited about that, just to kind of step away from my work, let it simmer in my head, and then in January when I come back to it, I've got more or less fresh eyes. At the end of the day, they're still my eyes, but it's good to have some space from your work. Now, this is going to be the last of my weekly videos for this year. I'll start posting videos again the second week of January, but until then, I hope you guys have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and if you miss me, check me out on Instagram because I'll still be posting there. As always, let's be a community of writers that help each other out. Cheers, and Merry Christmas.